Imagine this. You're sitting at home. It's a Tuesday morning. You've got your coffee.
Just minding your own business.
Exactly. Just minding your own business, scrolling through the news, letting the day slowly start, and then your phone buzzes.
And it's an unknown number. Or worse.
Right, worse. You glance down, and your caller ID actually says the name of your bank. So you answer because, well, it's your bank.
Of course you do.
And the person on the other end sounds incredibly professional, crisp, polite. But there's this unmistakable edge of urgency in their voice. They ask to speak to you by name.
And that's when they drop the bomb.
Yeah. They tell you there's a problem.
Yeah.
Suspicious activity has been flagged on your account. A massive wire transfer is pending, or maybe a block is about to be placed on your life savings because of some compliance issue.
And right there, in that exact second, your body reacts way before your brain does. You feel that sudden cold drop in your stomach. Your heart rate just spikes.
Panic sets in. Total panic. But the voice on the phone is reassuring. They tell you, don't worry, we caught it. We can fix this right now. We just need to verify a quick automated code that our system is sending to your phone. That'll prove your identity and cancel the transaction.
So you're desperate to fix it.
You are. You hear the ding of a text message. You open it. You read the 6 digits out loud to this highly helpful representative. They thank you. They tell you the account is completely secure, and you hang up.
You think it's over.
You lean back. You let out this massive sigh of relief, thinking you just dodged a bullet. And then maybe 30 seconds later, you get another text notification. A real one this time.
The balance alert.
Your account balance is 0. Every single penny is gone. Emptied. Just completely wiped out.
It is a truly terrifying scenario. And what is profoundly chilling about this is that this isn't some rare cinematic heist. This exact sequence of events is happening to thousands of people across all demographics every single day.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is to unpack the mechanics of what is undoubtedly one of the most common, most devastating, and frankly, most dangerous modern frauds in existence right now. The OTP scam.
We're drawing on a brilliant breakdown we received titled The Digital Fault, Defeating the OTP Fraud Game.
Yes, and we aren't just going to sit here and list off statistics. We're going to analyze the anatomy of this scam step by excruciating step. We're going to look at the psychological warfare being waged right through your smartphone.
And most importantly, we are going to show you how to build an impenetrable defense for yourself and for the people you care about.
Because I think the reality of modern cybersecurity is fundamentally misunderstood by the general public. We are sort of, culturally conditioned to think of digital theft as this purely technological battlefield.
Right. We picture a hacker in a dark room.
Yeah, a guy in a hoodie, furiously typing complex code to break through a bank's encrypted firewall. Like something out of a 90s movie where a progress bar slowly fills up as they, quote-unquote, hack the mainframe.
But reading through this material, the document we're diving into today, the sheer disbelief of it all just hits you.
It really does. I mean, we have biometric locks on our phones, we have end-to-end encrypted banking apps, multi-factor authentication, we have geolocation tracking, and AI-driven fraud detection.
All of that. Billions of dollars worth of modern banking security.
And yet, a simple phone call, just a 3-minute conversation with a complete stranger, can completely bypass all of it.
It bypasses it because the scam we are dissecting today is not a technical hack at all.
It's something else entirely.
It is a masterclass in human psychology. The scammers aren't trying to break into the bank's servers. That's way too difficult.
The servers are fortified.
Exactly. So they are breaking into the human mind instead. They are exploiting the very systems that were explicitly designed to keep us safe. They are turning our own security protocols into weapons against us.
So we need to establish a baseline right up front. There is a guiding mantra for everything we are going to discuss in this deep dive. It's a rule from the source material that we are going to circle back to, and it is the absolute central thesis of digital defense.
An OTP is only for a machine, never for a human.
An OTP is only for a machine, never for a human. We all know what an OTP is. We use them 10 times a day to log into everything. But as we dig into this, we'll see why treating that code with the reverence it deserves is the difference between keeping your life savings and losing everything in a matter of seconds.
That mantra is the bedrock. If you internalize why that statement is an absolute unbreakable law of digital architecture, you render this entire category of fraud completely powerless.
But to truly understand it, we have to look past the acronym itself and examine the actual anatomy of the OTP within the modern banking ecosystem. Let's do that. The anatomy of the OTP.
The material we are diving into frames this in a very specific way, a way I hadn't really considered before. It calls the OTP the final digital signature.
Functionally, it's just a temporary secret code, right?
Yep.
It's a string of numbers, usually 6 digits, that exists for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then it evaporates forever.
Right. It's used for the most critical actions. Logging in, approving a transfer, changing a password.
But the source makes it clear that it's not just a secondary password.
No, it is fundamentally different from a standard password. Think about what submitting that code actually means in the language of the bank's security architecture.
What is the system hearing when you type those numbers?
When you type an OTP into an app, the literal translation of that action is the statement, "I personally approve this action." It is your digital, legally binding signature.
Wow. So it's a direct authorization.
You are telling the bank, "Yes, it is me. I am physically holding the specific device I registered with you, and I authorize you to execute this command."
I was actually thinking about an analogy for this as I was reading the brief. Think of your bank account like a massive, heavily fortified steel vault.
Okay, I like that.
Your account number is just the address of the vault. Your login password is the combination to the outer door. The bank has all these security guards walking around, which are the fraud detection algorithms constantly monitoring the perimeter.
But the OTP is different.
The OTP is the physical key to the innermost safe. You are the only one who holds it. The bank mints that key and hands it directly to you at the exact millisecond you need it.
And that is exactly why the power concentrated in that final key is absolute. The OTP is the ultimate security layer because it bridges the digital world and the physical world.
A password can be guessed. It can be leaked in a massive corporate data breach and sold on the dark web.
Exactly. Passwords leak all the time. But an OTP is sent to a physical device, your phone, which is presumably sitting right there in your hand.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Yeah.
Because banks have incredibly sophisticated back-end algorithms, right?
Very sophisticated, yes.
So if I suddenly log in from a new IP address in a completely different country, and I try to wire $10,000 to an account I've never interacted with before, shouldn't the bank's security system flag that? Shouldn't it just block it anyway, even if the scammer somehow has my OTP?
That is exactly where the trap snaps shut. Yes, the bank's algorithms will flag that transaction. They absolutely will. They will freeze it.
Okay, so why does it go through?
Because what does the system do when it freezes a highly suspicious transaction? It generates an OTP and sends it to the account holder. The system is essentially saying, "We see massive red flags here. This looks like a robbery. Are you absolutely sure you want to do this?"
Oh, wow. So the OTP isn't just a login tool. It's a manual override.
Exactly. When you or the scammer using your code inputs that OTP, it acts as an override command. It tells the algorithm, ignore the new IP address, ignore the strange destination account, ignore all the red flags.
I, the authorized user, am personally validating this.
Yes. You are giving the scammer the master key and simultaneously signing a waiver telling the bank's security guards to stand down.
That is terrifying. You are actively overriding the very system that is screaming at you to stop. And I guess this is why it's fundamentally different from losing a credit card.
Completely different.
Because if I drop my Visa on the street, someone can maybe swipe it a few times for groceries before Visa notices the weird pattern and shuts it down. Plus, I could dispute those charges. I can get my money back.
Precisely. With credit card fraud, there are chargeback mechanisms. There is a whole dispute resolution process because the initial authorization was relatively weak, a swipe or a tap.
But when an OTP is involved,
When an OTP is involved, you have provided the strongest possible authorization. From the bank's perspective, they didn't get hacked. They followed your exact cryptographically verified instructions.
they did exactly what you told them to do.
That is why the damage is so total, and why recovering the funds is incredibly difficult, if not entirely impossible.
Okay, so if this code is the absolute master key, and if it overrides all other security, the massive question here is, why on earth would anyone just hand it over to a stranger on the phone?
It seems illogical from the outside.
It does. How do scammers actually convince smart, capable people to open the vault door from the inside?
This is where we have to leave the realm of computer science and enter the realm of behavioral psychology. Scammers do not just call you up and demand money.
Right, if they did that, you would hang up instantly.
Of course. Instead, they create an elaborate, meticulously crafted illusion. They set a stage.
The scammer's theater. I found this section of the source document absolutely fascinating. It's not just a guy sitting in his basement making crank calls.
Not at all. It's a highly organized operation.
They pose as figures of institutional trust. They pretend to be a bank manager or an official from the fraud department or customer support for a major digital payment network. And they don't just act the part, they sound the part.
The soundscape they create is vital to the deception. When you answer the phone, your brain is subconsciously processing dozens of audio cues to determine the context of the call.
What kind of cues?
Well, the scammers are essentially Foley artists for fraud. They use audio tracks of fake call center chatter.
So you actually hear a whole office behind them.
Yes, you hear ringing phones in the background. You hear the muffled voices of other quote-unquote agents talking to customers. You hear the clatter of keyboards.
It's basically movies set for your ears.
Mm.
You hear that background noise, and your brain immediately categorizes the interaction as corporate, legitimate, official.
Yes. And layered on top of that background noise is the tone of the caller themselves. It is completely professional. They do not stumble over their words. They use banking terminology flawlessly.
The script is tight.
Very tight. Depending on the specific script, they might be incredibly polite and empathetic, acting like a concierge guiding you through a crisis.
Or they go the other route.
Right. Conversely, they might adopt the persona of a stern compliance officer who is visibly annoyed that you haven't updated your paperwork.
I don't have time for this, you are in violation of our terms routine.
Exactly. It establishes immediate dominance.
But here's the thing that always trips people up. The scammer doesn't usually start from zero. They don't just blindly call and ask, who am I speaking to? They use fragmented data to build this false trust.
This is a crucial step.
What kind of data are we talking about here? Because that's what convinces people.
They utilize the digital exhaust we leave behind online. Through minor data breaches, scraped social media profiles, or purchase lists on the dark web, a scammer might acquire your full name, your phone number, the name of the bank you use, and perhaps the last 4 digits of your debit card.
Which honestly isn't that much information. I mean, if a hacker has my name and the last 4 digits of my card, they can't actually buy anything with that. It's useless for a transaction.
On a purely technical level, you're right, it's useless data. But to a social engineer, that data is absolute gold. It is the key to bypassing your initial skepticism.
How so?
Because if I call you and say, hi, I'm calling from the security department at your specific bank, am I speaking to John Doe regarding the Visa card ending in 1234? Your brain instantly registers a match.
You think, well, only my bank knows that.
Exactly. You assume the caller has access to your full file. The fragmented data acts as a Trojan horse. It allows the scammer to smuggle their deceptive narrative right past your critical thinking filters.
Imagine my Uncle Bob. He's making a sandwich. The phone rings. The person on the other end knows his bank. They know his card's last 4 digits. He's going to listen to whatever they say next.
And what they say next is designed to flip his entire reality upside down.
The source outlines a few of these scripts. They usually sound something like, suspicious activity detected, someone in another state is trying to withdraw $3,000.
Or, your digital payment network compliance is pending and we have to freeze your account in 20 minutes.
Notice what the scammer is doing there. They are approaching you not as an adversary, but as an ally.
They wrap the danger in the guise of institutional helpfulness.
The implicit message is, I am the security guard. I am trying to lock the door to keep the bad guys out. I am only calling to help you.
I am only calling to help you. That is the most devastating sentence in the entire scam.
Because it completely reorients the victim's defensive posture. You think you are fighting off a hacker with the help of the bank. You don't realize that the person offering you a life raft is the one actually drilling holes in the boat.
You drop your defenses because you believe you are speaking to the defense mechanism itself. You actively cooperate with the threat.
You become complicit in your own robbery.
Yes. And once that foundation of trust, or at least compliance, is established through this theatrical performance, the scammer is perfectly positioned for the most delicate part of the operation.
The execution.
Yeah.
The ask. This is where it gets incredibly insidious. We've got the theater. The victim believes they're talking to the bank. And now the scammer needs that final key. They need the 6 digits. How do they actually make the move?
It requires extreme finesse.
How do they ask for the code without triggering our internal alarms? Because if someone flat out asks for my password, I'm hanging up.
They do it through psychological misdirection. They minimize the importance of the code. A scammer will never say, please give me the authorization code so I can empty your checking account.
Obviously not.
They frame it as a trivial procedural necessity. They will say, "Sir, to cancel this fraudulent transfer, I need to verify your identity. Our automated system has just sent a verification token to your device."
Or they use that brilliant, awful line from the document. This is a system-generated OTP. I cannot see it on my end for security purposes. You just need to dictate it to me so I can log it into the secure terminal to process the cancellation.
By calling it a system OTP, they strip away the reality that it is a financial authorization code. They make it sound like a generic IT ticket number or a tracking code for a package. They make it sound entirely boring.
But wait, think about the actual text message the bank sends. It usually has massive warnings on it. It says, in all caps, "Do not share this code with anyone. OTP to transfer $5,000 is 123456."
It does. The warnings are explicit.
So how does a victim look at that text message, stare right at those capital letters, and still read the code out loud?
This relies on a psychological concept known as cognitive framing or priming. The scammer tells you what the code represents before you even look at your phone.
They set the expectation.
Precisely. They say, "Okay, the cancellation code just arrived. Please verify that cancellation code so I can stop the bad guys." Because your brain has been primed by the helpful authority figure on the phone to expect a cancellation code, that is exactly what you see when you look at the screen.
You literally don't process the word transfer or the phrase "do not share." Your brain just zeroes in on the 6 digits because you are in a desperate rush to solve the problem.
In high-stress situations, our brains suffer from tunnel vision. We filter out contradictory information to focus on the immediate task. The victim reads the code out loud, fully believing they are locking down their account.
And what is happening on the scammer's end in that exact moment while the victim is reading the numbers?
On their end, the scammer already has the bank's login portal open, or they have a massive wire transfer queued up on their screen, just waiting for authorization. They have been waiting, finger hovering over the keyboard, for those exact 6 digits.
The trap is set.
The second you speak them, they type them in and hit enter.
And it's over. Within seconds, the money is gone. The source says it takes maybe 3 seconds from the moment you speak the last digit to the moment your account balance drops to 0.
The technical execution is instantaneous. Because, as we discussed earlier, the human barrier was voluntarily lowered. The bank's security architecture actually worked perfectly.
That's the tragic irony.
It demanded cryptographic authorization for a major action. The tragedy is that the authorization was provided.
Which brings us to the heaviest, most complex part of this entire deep dive. The question that hangs over every single one of these cases. Why do people open the door?
It's the million-dollar question, literally.
Why do smart, capable, educated people fall for this? Because, let's be honest, sitting here having a calm conversation, it's very easy to say, I would never do that. I would read the text message properly. I'd just hang up.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Exactly. But thousands of people, including tech executives, lawyers, doctors, people whose whole job is logic, they fall for this every day.
And that is because we are analyzing the situation using our intellect. Sitting here calm, we are using logic. But scammers do not attack your intellect. They attack your emotions.
If we only focus on the mechanics.
Right. If we only look at the phone call, the text message, the web portal, we miss the entire engine driving the scam. Human beings are incredibly rational creatures under normal circumstances. Scammers know they cannot win a logical argument with you. Therefore, their entire methodology is designed to bypass your logic center entirely.
They want to trigger a biological response.
They want to trigger an emotional, biological response that overrides your intellect.
Let's spend a lot of time on this psychological hijack, because this is where the real battle is fought. If you break down the psychology of these calls based on the document, they are essentially pulling 4 main emotional levers.
Fear, urgency, authority, and shame.
Let's take these one by one, starting with the most primal. Fear. Your account has been compromised. Why is fear the ultimate weapon here?
Fear is deeply embedded in our evolutionary biology. It is our primary survival mechanism. When you receive a call telling you that your life savings are in jeopardy, or that your bank account, which is your literal lifeline to food, shelter, and security in the modern world, is about to be frozen, your brain perceives that as an existential threat.
It's no different than a physical threat to the brain.
Exactly. This triggers what psychologists call an amygdala hijack.
An amygdala hijack. Break that down for us. What is physically happening in the brain during one of these calls?
The amygdala is an almond-shaped mass of gray matter inside each cerebral hemisphere. It's involved with the experiencing of emotions. It is essentially your brain's alarm system.
The smoke detector.
Right. When it perceives a sudden threat like a lion in the brush, or in the modern world, the prospect of losing all your money, it instantly initiates the fight or flight
It
response.
floods your body with adrenaline. You start sweating, your heart races.
Yes. But more importantly for the scammer, when the amygdala fires, it literally overrides and suppresses the prefrontal cortex.
The prefrontal cortex, what does that do?
The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain located right behind your forehead. It is responsible for logical thinking, complex decision-making, skepticism, and risk assessment.
So you're saying that the scammer is using fear to biologically disable the victim's ability to think critically.
Precisely. They are inducing a chemical state of panic. In a state of panic, you aren't analyzing the nuances of a text message. You aren't questioning why a bank needs an OTP verbally over the phone. You are just looking for the fastest possible route away from the danger.
And the scammer positions themselves as the only escape route.
Yes, your hijacked brain jumps at the offered solution without pausing to analyze if the solution makes logical sense.
That is incredible. You literally aren't thinking straight because your brain's alarm bells are deafening your logic center. It's a biological hack. Okay, the second emotional lever is urgency. You must take action right now. The transfer is clearing in 60 seconds. How does urgency amplify that fear?
Urgency is the catalyst that makes the fear explosive. Think about it logically. If a scammer called and said, "Your account is compromised, please visit your local branch sometime next week to resolve it," the scam would completely fail.
Right. You'd hang up, have a coffee, talk to your spouse and say, "That was a weird call. I'll check my app later." The amygdala hijack would subside.
Exactly. Your prefrontal cortex would come back online, your logic would return, and you would realize it was a fraud immediately. So the scammer has to impose artificial time constraints.
They shrink the window.
You have 5 minutes before the funds leave the country. I need to stop the block right now while I have you on the line, or the system will lock you out permanently.
It's the ticking clock in a movie bomb scene. It forces the hero to sweat and cut the wrong wire.
By compressing the timeline, they eliminate your ability to pause. They remove the physical space between the stimulus, which is the threat, and the response, which is giving the OTP.
If you don't have time to think, you don't have time to verify.
You are forced into a reactionary mode, making snap decisions based purely on the adrenaline and fear they just instilled. You are sprinting through a minefield because they told you something is chasing you.
Wow. Sprinting through a minefield. All right. The third pillar here is authority. The scammer adopts the persona of a bank manager, a fraud investigator, or even someone from the police cyber cell. Why are we so exceptionally vulnerable to authoritative voices?
This goes back to deep societal and cultural conditioning. From the moment we are born, we are trained to comply with authority figures. Parents, teachers, police officers, doctors, and yes, financial officials.
We are taught that defying authority is bad.
When someone presents themselves confidently as an expert in a position of power, especially regarding a complex, opaque system like banking, our default human setting is deference.
We assume they know how the plumbing works, and we don't.
Exactly. Consider the Milgram experiments from the 1960s. The document touches on this concept. That experiment demonstrated how far people will go in obeying an instruction if it involves an authority figure telling them it is strictly necessary.
People will go against their own better judgment.
While this is a different context, the underlying principle is exactly the same. If a quote-unquote senior security officer tells you that a specific counterintuitive procedure is necessary to protect your account, your instinct is to obey. Defying an authority figure feels wrong. It feels risky.
We want to be good citizens. We want to be cooperative customers. We don't want to be the difficult person holding up the process.
And the scammer weaponizes that exact cooperative nature against you. They exploit your desire to be helpful and compliant. They use your good manners as a vulnerability.
That is so dark. But I think the fourth emotion we need to discuss is perhaps the most insidious, and that is shame. The tactic of making the victim feel foolish. You don't know this basic process.
Right.
How does shame work as a weapon in the middle of a phone call?
Shame is used as a silencer. Let's say the victim's prefrontal cortex starts to fight through the fear. Their logic center flickers on for a second, and they say, "Wait a minute. My bank app explicitly told me never to share an OTP with anyone. Why are you asking for it?"
They start to resist.
The scammer will immediately pivot from being helpful to being condescending.
They change the tone.
Radically. They will sigh loudly and say, "Sir, as I explained, this is a standard system-generated cancellation protocol. Everyone knows how this works. Are you not familiar with basic digital banking compliance? If you can't follow this simple step, I can't help you, and the loss of funds will be entirely your responsibility.
Oh, man. They make you feel stupid, old, and out of touch for even asking a completely valid security question.
Nobody wants to feel foolish, especially not adults who feel they should understand how to manage their own money. By invoking shame, the scammer makes the victim doubt their own instincts.
They turn the victim against themselves.
Instead of questioning the scammer, the victim starts questioning themselves. They think, maybe I am confused. Maybe this is a new procedure I don't understand. I don't want to sound like an idiot, so I'll just go along with it.
Shame prevents them from asking for clarification, hanging up, or seeking a second opinion. It isolates them in their own insecurity.
So when you synthesize these four pillars, fear, urgency, authority, and shame, what does that look like in action?
It's overwhelming.
It creates a perfect psychological storm. The scammer uses authority to gain your initial compliance. They use fear to trigger an amygdala hijack and shut down your logical brain. They use urgency to force an immediate action before your logic can reboot. And if you show any resistance, they use shame to crush your confidence and enforce submission.
When you combine those four forces, you can force highly intelligent, rational people to make disastrous decisions against their own self-interest. It is a formula, and it is brutally effective. Hearing it broken down like that, it completely removes the stigma of falling for it.
It should remove the stigma entirely.
You aren't falling for a cheap trick. You are being emotionally hijacked by a professional psychological manipulator.
Which naturally brings us to a crucial aspect of this discussion from the source material: empathy and targeting. Because while this perfect storm can catch anyone off guard, literally anyone, there are specific demographics that are disproportionately targeted and victimized by this emotional hijacking.
Right. The statistics show clear vulnerabilities. We were talking about senior citizens, new smartphone users, people who are unfamiliar with modern banking terminology, and honestly, people who just naturally trust easily.
I really want to emphasize the empathy aspect here. When we hear about someone losing their life savings to a phone call, there is often this terrible reflexive victim blaming that happens in society. People say, how could they be so gullible?
How would they not know?
But looking at this structurally, these aren't foolish people. These are people who are technologically disadvantaged or who are operating under an entirely different paradigm of trust.
Think about a senior citizen. They grew up in an era where banking was a highly personal, human-to-human interaction. You walked into a branch, you knew the teller's name, you shook hands with the manager.
A phone call from the bank was actually the bank trying to help you.
Exactly. The institution was built on personal trust and relationship.
And now, that same demographic is forced to navigate a purely digital landscape. They are pushed onto smartphone apps that update constantly, using jargon they don't understand. The digital divide is a massive vulnerability.
And the scammers know it.
The scammer scripts are specifically optimized to exploit that divide.
For example, a scammer calls an elderly person and says, your digital payment network compliance is out of date and your virtual routing address will be deactivated. That is terrifying jargon to someone who barely knows how to text.
The victim feels overwhelmed. They are already anxious about making a mistake with the technology. The scammer then offers to guide them through it, stepping into the role of that friendly, helpful bank teller from 40 years ago.
The scammer plays the hero.
The victim isn't being foolish. They are seeking human help in a cold, confusing digital landscape. The scammer is simply the wolf in sheep's clothing offering a hand.
And this connects directly to you, the listener. You might be listening to this deep dive, driving to work thinking, okay, I get it. I know what an OTP is. I use authenticator apps. I'm tech savvy. I would never fall for this.
Yeah.
And maybe that is true. But why does this specific topic matter to you?
It matters immensely.
It matters because your parents, your grandparents, your less tech-literate aunts and uncles, or your neighbors, they are sitting directly in the crosshairs of these automated, relentless scam operations.
This is fundamentally a community defense issue. Scammers are running automated dialing programs from massive call centers. They are calling thousands of numbers a day, churning through lists, specifically hunting for the vulnerable people in our lives.
They are playing a numbers game.
They are looking for the person who will answer the phone, hear the word bank, and feel a spike of anxiety instead of skepticism. If you are tech-savvy, you have a responsibility to act as the firewall for your family.
Which is the perfect pivot to the final and most actionable part of our discussion today. The defense protocol. How do we actually stop this? The beauty of understanding the complexity of this scam is that the defense against it is shockingly simple. It requires discipline, but the rules are absolute.
Let's return to the central mantra we established at the beginning. An OTP is only for a machine, never for a human.
I want to hammer this home. There are no exceptions to this rule. None. Zero.
I will state it as an absolute truth of digital banking architecture. No bank teller, no fraud department investigator, no police officer, no customer care representative, no technical support agent, no human being whatsoever will ever need you to verbally dictate an OTP to them.
Let me push back one last time just to be crystal clear. What if I call the bank myself because my card is stolen and the agent says they need to send me an OTP to verify my identity before they can help me? What then?
Even then, modern banking systems are designed so that if you need to authenticate over the phone, you authenticate with the machine. You might be asked to type it into your keypad or enter it into the app while on the phone.
But don't say it.
The moment a human voice says, "Read those 6 digits to me," the context is broken. Think about it logically. If the bank system is generating the code and texting it to you, the bank system already knows who you are and what the code is.
It generated it.
Exactly. The system doesn't need a human employee to act as a verbal middleman to type it back into the same system. The OTP is a private, encrypted handshake between your physical device and the bank's central server. A human asking for it is a structural anomaly. They are a fraud, period.
So the rule is absolute. If a voice asks for the code, it's a scam. So what is the immediate physical action the listener should take?
You cut the call.
Just hang up.
Yes. I really want to emphasize the immense power of simply hanging up the phone. As we discussed, we are socially conditioned to be polite. We want to say, "I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable with this," or "let me call you back."
We don't want to be rude.
But in this scenario, politeness is a vulnerability. The scammer will use that politeness to keep you on the line, to pivot back to fear or shame.
Hanging up is the ultimate circuit breaker.
It is exactly a circuit breaker. It instantly shatters the scammer's carefully constructed audio theater. It physically cuts off the fear, the urgency, the authority, and the shame.
The spell is broken.
The moment the line goes dead, you reclaim control of your environment. You give your amygdala a chance to cool down and your prefrontal cortex a chance to reboot.
Just hit the red button. Do not explain yourself. Do not argue with them. Just hang up. But, and I know this from personal experience, even if you hang up, the anxiety lingers. The scammer just spent 5 minutes terrifying you, claiming your account is blocked. You're sitting there looking at your phone thinking, what if it was real? What if my money is actually in danger right now?
That lingering doubt is a powerful residual effect of the psychological hijack. To resolve that doubt, you must take agency. You do not hit redial on the number that just called you.
No, because scammers can spoof caller ID to look like the bank.
Exactly. And you do not trust a phone number included in a text message because that could be part of the phishing attempt.
You go to the source.
You take out your physical debit card, you look at the toll-free number printed on the back, or you open a new browser window, go directly to the bank's official website, and you type that number into your phone yourself.
And what happens when you do that?
When you call the real bank, on your terms, you will almost always find out that your account is perfectly fine, there was no massive wire transfer, and there was no pending compliance issue. You verify the reality, but you do it entirely outside of the scammer's ecosystem.
And the final critical step is education. Taking the knowledge we've discussed today and actively sharing it. We cannot assume that our parents or grandparents know this.
Knowledge is only a shield when it is distributed. By educating your family, you inoculate them against the emotional hijack.
You have to sit down with them.
You sit down with them and you explain the theater. You tell them someone is going to call you, they're going to know your name, they are going to sound professional, and they are going to try to terrify you.
Forewarned is forearmed.
If they know the scammer's script before the phone ever rings, the fear and authority tactics simply will not work. You pre-program their prefrontal cortex to recognize the threat.
All right, let's bring this massive topic together and recap the journey we have been on today. We started by redefining the OTP. It isn't just a text message. It is your legally binding digital signature, the final, physical key to your innermost financial vault. It is an override command that bypasses all other security.
We pulled back the curtain on the scammer's audio theater. We saw how they act as Foley artists, using fake call center noise, professional tones, and fragmented data to bypass your initial skepticism and build a false foundation of institutional trust.
We examined the specific, deceptive language used to extract the code, framing it as a system OTP or a cancellation code to prime your brain to completely ignore the security warnings flashing on your screen.
And most crucially, we tore apart the psychological hijack. We learned that these fraudsters are not hacking computer systems, they are hacking human biology.
They weaponize fear to trigger an amygdala hijack,
They use urgency to force blind reaction,
authority to demand compliance.
and shame to silence any logical doubts.
But despite the sophistication of that psychological warfare, the defense is elegantly simple. We just have to remember the golden rule of the digital age.
The code is for the machine, never the human. If a voice asks for the digits, the voice is a threat. Cut the call.
It is incredibly empowering to know that an attack this devastating can be completely neutralized by something as simple as pressing the end call button. We just have to understand the rules of the game being played against us.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the digital vault, I want to leave you with a lingering, somewhat philosophical question to ponder. We have spent our entire lives, and really generations of human society, learning to be polite.
It's ingrained in us.
We are taught to trust authority figures, to be cooperative, and to help people who offer us assistance. But in the era of digital finance, we see clearly that scammers have entirely weaponized our own humanity, our empathy, our trust, our fear against us.
They use our best traits to rob us.
So to truly protect our digital vaults moving forward, do we now have to train ourselves, and more tragically, our elders, to be a little less trusting, a little less polite, and a little more like the very cold, calculating machines we are typing our passwords into?